White women are casting spells, folks. They're hexing Trump, the man who was $1 billion in debt, said he wanted to fuck his own daughter and was a known associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe the frog soup will do him in, though. Who are these hags, as they like to be called? What are they doing with that chicken bone? Where did they come from, and where are they going? An early death due to obesity and brew inhalation, but the other questions require more explanation. White urbanite liberals like the rest of us read books in school about poor people who get shot while sitting on a log, sail down the Mississippi with their cool friend, and live next to an albino. They can't empathize with these characters, so they read a book about wizards to find companions in literature. The idealist lib who we'll be talking about probably can be understood fully if you carefully read the Harry Potter books. That doesn't mean it's worth it, but you have to remember that it all goes back to that. It's not just like guys who obsessively read Infinite Jest have the right to guffaw at these people. Followers of religious texts could tell certain Harry Potter people to cool it, and at least Allah and the coffee table tosser were good at writing. So teen girls went to Tumblr to talk about Harry Potter and other media in the cottage industry which followed the phenomena of those books, which sought out the same mid-wit, less clever than they think audience of young people. There were certain aesthetics which these girls gravitated towards. Quiet, cozy spaces, dark academia, and Reddit weather, one of my all-time favorite turns of phrase. That plus an obsession with badass women and smart women, gluttonous women, socially repulsive women, basically any woman embodying the qualities which are contrary to those of an imagined Stepford wife molded by patriarchy and desired by all men and denied the right to eat an entire cake. So you can probably guess that there was some witch shit being posted considering all that. But why would girls begin actually practicing the dark art besides having a fetish for the look? Certainly not because they actually believe that they can turn Chad into a bat. Tumblr is a place where people will lie about absolutely anything. And it's also a place where people will form an identity around absolutely anything, so authenticity is something which is constantly scrutinized, especially when it comes to identity. This is why there have been struggle sessions on Tumblr about any topic you can conceive of, and when an identity has some kind of social baggage, well, then you've got the perfect fodder for young people to waste their prime years arguing about. In other words, if you post a painting of a bubbling cauldron on your blog and you're not really a witch, then you'll have some other cunt telling you about how witchery originated in Africa and it's a sacred intellectual tradition which requires years of devoted study, and posting a depiction of a hex if you're not an experienced wizard is a sign of great disrespect which can only be atoned for by letting your toenails grow for 3 years and then planting them in an aspen forest on the dawn equinox. You could have become a witch several times over while listening to all that. Just say, I'm a witch, I practice that dark art. If there's some kind of bay leaf burning initiation, then just lie. And suddenly you're part of a cool tradition and have another identity which comes with social capital. You and your sisters are the great-granddaughters of the witches that couldn't be burned at the stake. Sure, your oldest female relative calls these nuts nigger toes, but a dead bitch twice as old as her was a badass intersectional queen who evaded the Inquisition. She was probably chilling in the Underground Railroad helping Harriet Tubman free slaves too. So modern witches are completely displaced from any tradition of magic practice, and whatever you want to call a real witch, one from the cartoons or Africa or New England 100 years ago, would probably scalp an e-witch. So it's hard for these women to appear authentic when they're plainly an abomination. One witch went as far as grave robbing to prove she wasn't a poser. For most people, white girl witchcraft is infamous for a lol-cow story like that, or from one of the many articles about these women hexing the big cheese, Donald Trump. There's something really funny about that to me. Any political action which confronts the apparatus of power is so futile that we're not totally willing to shoo away the witches. The level of confidence that a witch and her audience has in an official hex on Donald Trump, as opposed to just saying, I really hope Donald Trump gets owned, is like the difference between hoping you get a hot girlfriend on any given day versus when blowing out your birthday candles. But you know, why not? But yeah, they don't actually believe in any of that shit. Your capacity for belief in spiritual traditions is granted by your culture. That's why there's no one in America who worships Horus or Devil. You don't go from being a little white girl in Portland who goes to a church that plays rock music once a year on Easter Sunday to a witch. All these people are simply lying. Even if you're making pots of green goo and lighting expensive candles and having an abortion every month or whatever they do, it's a fashionable affect. If it didn't involve nailing my dick to a Ouija board, I would let a witch hex me 1,000,000 times for, say, a bottle of Crown Royal. I don't believe in God, but I wouldn't let a Southern Baptist damn me to hell for a bottle of rum. Because unlike a garage hex, priests are seen as having a connection to a spiritual world in our culture. You can never shake that impression completely. And you certainly can't have that role filled in your mind by someone else who you'd prefer. It's all bullshit. I've been reading a little bit about the spells these white girls perform, and unless they're secretly making shake and bake meth, it's all as interesting to me as the spell where you squeeze a tube of toothpaste into the bath and slowly stir it with your big hairy toe. So will the re-embrace of witchcraft as an aesthetic last much longer? And will it be remembered as having even the cultural impact as something like modism? No. Of all the ways you could try to distinguish yourself from the person you feel society is trying to force you to be, becoming a witch seems like something people would come up with eventually. For the second time, I mean. And it's not particularly offensive, I guess, but you know, I was pretty annoyed with it when I started writing this.